17-year-old Marcus Chen walked into Peterson's Electronics in downtown Sacramento wearing his father's leather jacket, never imagining that in just 5 minutes he'd trigger the largest boycott in the city's retail history. What happened next would shut down 3 store locations, cost the company millions, and prove that sometimes the smallest acts of discrimination can unleash the biggest consequences. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Marcus Chen had been saving for 8 months. Every dollar from his part-time job at the auto repair shop, every birthday gift from relatives, every loose change found in couch cushions, it all went toward one goal: buying his first motorcycle. Not just any motorcycle, but a 2019 Harley-Davidson Street 750 he'd found at Rodriguez Motors across town. The bike was perfect, midnight black with chrome details that caught the light just right. Miguel Rodriguez, the dealer, had agreed to hold it for him until he could come up with the full payment. Marcus was $300 short, but he'd found a solution. His gaming laptop, a high-end Dell Alienware his uncle had given him for his 16th birthday, would cover the difference. Peterson's Electronics had the best trade-in program in Sacramento. Marcus had done his research, called ahead, and even brought all the original packaging and documentation. The laptop was in pristine condition. He'd barely used it since getting hooked on working with his hands at the shop. Walking up to the store on that Tuesday afternoon in late September, Marcus felt confident. He wore his father's old leather jacket, the one Dad had worn during his own motorcycle days in the 80s. The jacket was broken in perfectly, soft from years of wear but still sturdy. His father had passed away 2 years earlier, and wearing the jacket made Marcus feel connected to him somehow. The Peterson's Electronics on K Street was the flagship location, a massive store with wall-to-wall displays of computers, phones, gaming systems, and accessories. Marcus had shopped there before with his mother. Always impressed by the selection and the usually helpful staff, he approached the customer service desk, where a middle-aged man with thinning hair and a perpetual scowl stood organizing paperwork. The name tag read, Gerald Hoffman, store manager. Marcus had never dealt with Hoffman before, but he'd heard other customers mention him, usually not in positive terms. "Excuse me." "Sir," Marcus said politely, setting his laptop bag on the counter. "I called earlier about trading in my gaming laptop. I have all the original packaging and—" Hoffman looked up with obvious annoyance, his eyes immediately fixing on Marcus's leather jacket. "We don't serve your kind here," he interrupted coldly. Marcus blinked, confused. "I'm sorry, what?" "A bikers," Hoffman spat. "Gang members. We've had problems with your type before, and I won't have it in my store." "Sir, I think there's been a misunderstanding," Marcus said, maintaining his composure despite his growing frustration. "I'm not in a gang. I'm 17 years old. I work at Patterson Auto Repair down the street, and I'm just trying to trade in my laptop." Hoffman's expression didn't change. "The jacket, the attitude. I know trouble when I see it. We reserve the right to refuse service to anyone, and I'm refusing you. Take your business elsewhere." Other customers began to notice the commotion. An elderly woman in line behind Marcus shifted uncomfortably. A teenage employee behind the phone repair counter stopped what he was doing to watch. "This is ridiculous," Marcus said, his voice rising slightly. "You're refusing to serve me because of a jacket. This was my father's. He wasn't in a gang either. He was a construction worker. I don't care what story you want to tell," Hoffman replied dismissively. "The answer is no. Now leave before I call security." Marcus felt his cheeks burn with embarrassment and anger. The unfairness of it all hit him like a physical blow. He'd worked so hard, saved so carefully, planned everything perfectly, and now this man was treating him like a criminal because of how he dressed. "Fine," Marcus said through gritted teeth, shouldering his laptop bag. But this isn't over. As he walked toward the exit, he heard Hoffman mutter to another employee, "Probably stolen anyway. These biker punks are all the same." Marcus stopped dead in his tracks. That comment about the laptop being stolen crossed a line. He turned back, his jaw clenched, but caught himself before saying something he'd regret. Instead, he pulled out his phone and took a photo of the store's interior, including a clear shot of Hoffman behind the counter, outside in the parking lot. Marcus sat on the curb next to his beat-up Honda Civic and called his mother at work. They wouldn't even look at the laptop. "Mom," he explained, trying to keep the frustration out of his voice. "The manager just assumed I was some kind of criminal because of Dad's jacket." Carmen Chen had heard similar stories before. As a nurse at UC Davis Medical Center, she'd seen how prejudice could affect people in countless ways. But hearing it happen to her son filled her with protective rage. "That's discrimination, Marcus. You should file a complaint." "With who? It's not like I can prove anything. He'll just say I was acting suspicious or something." After hanging up with his mother, Marcus sat in his car for several minutes, staring at the Peterson's electronics storefront. Other customers went in and out freely. College students, business people, families with children. All of them received normal, polite service, while he'd been treated like a threat. The injustice of it gnawed at him. He thought about his father, who'd taught him to work hard, treat people with respect, and stand up for what's right. Roberto Chen had been proud of his heritage, his work ethic, and his family. He'd never let anyone treat him as less than equal. Marcus decided to drive by Patterson Auto Repair and tell his boss, Jake Patterson, what had happened. Jake had been his father's friend and had given Marcus the job partly as a way to honor Roberto's memory. Patterson Auto Repair occupied a large garage on Folsom Boulevard, specializing in motorcycle maintenance and custom work. It was a legitimate business with a solid reputation, but it attracted a diverse clientele, including many motorcycle enthusiasts. Some rode Harleys, others preferred sport bikes, and yes, some belonged to motorcycle clubs. Jake Patterson was in his 50s, a gruff man with oil-stained hands and a heart of gold. He'd built his business from nothing and commanded respect throughout Sacramento's motorcycle community. When Marcus told him what had happened at Peterson's Electronics, Jake's expression darkened. "That's exactly the kind of ignorant nonsense your dad dealt with sometimes," Jake said, wiping his hands on a rag. "People see a leather jacket and immediately think criminal. It's prejudice, plain and simple." "I just don't understand it," Marcus said. "I was polite, I had money, I wasn't causing any trouble. He wouldn't even let me show him the laptop. Some people are just narrow-minded, kid. They see what they expect to see instead of what's actually in front of them." As they talked, other mechanics and customers began gathering around. Word spread quickly through the shop about what had happened. Marcus found himself retelling the story to Tommy Castellano, a motorcycle enthusiast who did custom paint jobs, and Sarah Mitchell, a lawyer who rode a BMW and brought her bike to Patterson's for maintenance. Each person who heard the story became more outraged than the last. This wasn't just about Marcus. It was about the fundamental disrespect shown to anyone who didn't fit someone's narrow definition of acceptable. "You know what this is really about," Tommy said, adjusting his bandana. "It's about fear. That manager fears what he doesn't understand, so he lashes out." Sarah, who dealt with discrimination in her own career as one of the few female attorneys who rode motorcycles, shook her head in disgust. "It's 2023, and we're still dealing with this stereotyping nonsense. Someone needs to hold that store accountable. The problem is, places like Peterson's think they can get away with this because they assume people like us don't have any real power," added Mike Brennan, an insurance adjuster who'd stopped by to check on his Triumph's repair status. "They see a leather jacket and think, troublemaker with no money and no connections. They're about to learn how wrong they are," Jake said quietly, his voice carrying a tone Marcus had never heard before. As word spread through Patterson Auto Repair that afternoon, something began to shift. Phone calls were made. Text messages flew between members of various motorcycle clubs, riding groups, and enthusiasts throughout Northern California. The story of Marcus Chen's treatment at Peterson's Electronics traveled through networks that crossed traditional social boundaries. These weren't dangerous criminals or outlaws. They were teachers, mechanics, nurses, business owners, veterans, students and retirees who happened to share a passion for motorcycles. Many had experienced similar discrimination at various establishments over the years, but they'd never had a focal point for their frustration. Marcus had no idea that his humiliating experience would become the catalyst for something much larger than a simple complaint to corporate headquarters. By Thursday morning, the incident at Peterson's Electronics had reached Danny Rodriguez, president of the Sacramento chapter of the Iron Brotherhood Motorcycle Club. Danny wasn't your typical club president. He held a master's degree in business administration and ran a successful construction company that employed 43 people. His club brothers included a retired police captain, 2 paramedics, a high school principal, and an aerospace engineer. The Iron Brotherhood had spent years fighting the stereotype that all motorcycle clubs were criminal organizations. They organized charity rides for children's hospitals, participated in veteran support programs, and maintained a strict code of conduct that prohibited illegal activities. Their reputation in Sacramento was impeccable, but they constantly battled public misconceptions. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. When Danny heard Marcus's story through the network of motorcycle enthusiasts, something clicked. This wasn't just about one teenager being mistreated. It was about the broader prejudice that affected their entire community. Danny called an emergency meeting at their clubhouse on Wednesday evening. The Iron Brotherhood occupied a restored warehouse in the industrial district, complete with meeting rooms, a full kitchen, and a workshop for motorcycle maintenance. 27 members showed up, along with representatives from 3 other local clubs, the Desert Riders, California Freedom MC, and the Road Warriors. Brothers and sisters, Danny began, addressing the mixed group. We've all dealt with this before. The sideways looks, the assumptions, the outright hostility. But this time, it happened to a kid who isn't even part of our world yet. A kid who was just trying to buy his first bike. Teresa Hawkins, from the Desert Riders, a pediatric nurse who rode a custom Sportster, raised her hand. I shop at Peterson's regularly for my computer equipment. Never had a problem because I don't wear my colors when I go there. But that's exactly the issue. Why should we have to hide who we are? The question is, what do we do about it? Asked Ray Coleman, the retired police captain. Filing a complaint gets us nowhere. These corporate chains just transfer problem managers to different locations. That's when Marcus's boss, Jake Patterson, who'd been invited to the meeting, stood up. I've got an idea. What if we hit them where it actually hurts, their bottom line? Jake explained his proposal. A coordinated boycott of all Peterson's Electronics locations in Northern California, combined with a peaceful demonstration that would draw media attention to the issue of discrimination against motorcycle enthusiasts. We're talking about thousands of people, Jake continued. Club members, independent riders, motorcycle shop customers, friends and family. Peterson's Electronics has 12 locations in our area, and they probably don't realize how much business they get from the motorcycle community. Lisa Chang, the aerospace engineer from Iron Brotherhood, pulled out her laptop and started typing. Let me run some numbers. If we assume each club member spends an average of $500 per year at electronics stores, and we can mobilize about 400 people directly, that's $200,000 in lost revenue annually. But if we expand to include family members, friends, and sympathetic customers, we could be looking at over $1 million in lost business. The math was compelling, but Danny knew it would take more than numbers to create real change. This has to be about more than just hurting their profits. We need to educate people about who we really are. Over the next 2 hours, they developed a comprehensive strategy. The boycott would be organized through social media, word of mouth, and coordination between various motorcycle groups throughout Northern California. They would also plan a peaceful demonstration at the flagship Peterson's Electronics store, where Marcus had been mistreated. Meanwhile, Marcus continued his regular routine, unaware that his story had sparked something much larger. He went to school, worked his shifts at Patterson Auto Repair, and tried to figure out alternative ways to raise the money for his motorcycle. The humiliation of Peterson's incident still stung, but he was focused on moving forward. On Friday afternoon, Jake called Marcus into his office. "Kid, I need to tell you something. Your story has gotten around the motorcycle community, and people are pretty upset about what happened." Marcus looked confused. "What do you mean, got around?" "Well, let's just say you've got more support than you realize. People are planning to take action." Before Marcus could ask for details, his phone buzzed with a text from his best friend, Alex Morrison. "Dude, check out the Sacramento Riders Facebook page. There's something about you there." Marcus opened the social media app and found a post that had been shared over 300 times. It detailed his experience at Peterson's Electronics, along with photos of the store and information about planned boycott activities. The comments section was filled with similar stories from other motorcycle enthusiasts who'd faced discrimination. "This is crazy," Marcus muttered, scrolling through dozens of responses. "I had no idea so many other people had problems like this." One comment particularly caught his attention. It was from Maria Santos, a teacher who rode a Honda Shadow. "This happened to my husband and me at the Petersons in Stockton last year. The security guard followed us around the entire store, like we were going to steal something. We ended up buying our new TV somewhere else. But I never thought to speak up about it." Another comment came from David Kim, a software developer. "I stopped wearing my motorcycle club t-shirts to electronics stores after getting hassled multiple times. It's sad that we have to hide who we are just to be treated with basic respect." The stories kept coming, painting a picture of systematic discrimination that went far beyond Marcus's single experience. These weren't isolated incidents. They represented a pattern of prejudice that had been affecting the motorcycle community for years. By Saturday morning, the boycott had gained serious momentum. The Iron Brotherhood's social media coordinator, Jennifer Walsh, had created a comprehensive campaign with the hashtag #RespectAllRiders. The message was clear. Peterson's Electronics needed to address their discrimination policies and train their staff properly, or face the economic consequences. Local news stations began picking up the story after receiving tips from multiple sources. Channel 8's consumer affairs reporter Amanda Foster contacted Danny Rodriguez for an on-camera interview about the boycott. "This isn't about one bad manager," Danny explained during the interview. "This is about a culture of prejudice that treats law-abiding citizens like criminals based solely on their appearance or lifestyle choices. We're teachers, nurses, business owners, veterans. We're part of this community, and we deserve to be treated with the same respect as anyone else." The interview aired during Saturday evening's newscast, reaching tens of thousands of viewers throughout the Sacramento Valley. Peterson's Electronics corporate headquarters began receiving phone calls and emails from concerned customers, many of whom weren't even part of the motorcycle community but supported the principle of equal treatment. Dr. Patricia Hoffman, a psychology professor at Sacramento State University who didn't ride motorcycles but had seen the news coverage, sent an email to Peterson's customer service. "The discrimination described in recent news reports is unacceptable in any business setting. Until your company takes concrete steps to address this issue and ensure equal treatment for all customers, my family will be shopping elsewhere." Similar messages poured in from various sources. Peterson's Electronics was discovering that discrimination against one group often offended many others who believed in fairness and equal treatment. Sunday brought an unexpected development. Marcus received a phone call from his mother's friend, Rosa Martinez, who worked in the corporate offices of Peterson's Electronics at their regional headquarters. "Marcus, I heard what happened to you," Rosa said. I want you to know that not everyone at Peterson supports what that manager did. Some of us are pushing for policy changes and better training. Rosa explained that several corporate employees had been following the boycott coverage and were advocating for immediate action. However, they were meeting resistance from upper management, who seemed more concerned about the financial impact than addressing the underlying discrimination issues. The problem is, Gerald Hoffman has been with the company for 15 years, Rosa continued. He's got supporters in management who think this whole thing will blow over if they just wait it out. Marcus thanked Rosa for the information, but felt overwhelmed by how quickly his simple attempt to trade in a laptop had escalated into a community-wide controversy. He'd wanted to buy a motorcycle and move on with his life, not become the center of a discrimination battle. Monday morning arrived with unexpected intensity. Peterson's Electronics corporate CEO, William Thornton, walked into his San Francisco headquarters to find his assistant, Nancy Fletcher, holding a stack of printed emails and incident reports. "Sir, we have a situation developing in Sacramento," Nancy said, her usual calm demeanor showing cracks of concern. "The boycott story hit the morning news cycle, and our customer service lines are jammed." Thornton had built Peterson's Electronics from a single store into a regional chain over 25 years. He prided himself on customer satisfaction and community relations, which made the current crisis particularly troubling. The company's stock price had already dropped 2% in pre-market trading after investment analysts caught wind of the boycott coverage. "Get me the regional manager on the phone," Thornton ordered, settling behind his mahogany desk. "And I want a full report on this Hoffman character within the hour." While corporate executives scrambled to manage the crisis, the motorcycle community's response continued growing. Social media algorithms picked up the Respect All Riders hashtag, spreading the story beyond Sacramento to motorcycle enthusiasts throughout California and neighboring states. Marcus discovered the expanding scope of support when he arrived at Patterson Auto Repair that Monday morning. Jake met him at the door with a grin that seemed almost mischievous. "Kid, you better brace yourself," Jake said. "We've got visitors." In the main workshop area, Marcus found representatives from motorcycle clubs he'd never heard of. There was Carlos Mendoza from the Fresno chapter of the Guardians MC, Rachel Turner from the Bay Area Women Riders Association, and Frank Williams from the Central Valley Veterans Riding Club. "Marcus," Carlos said, extending a weathered hand for a shake, "your story reached our club yesterday. We drove up from Fresno this morning because this affects all of us." Rachel, a software project manager who rode a BMW adventure bike, nodded in agreement. "I've faced the same treatment at various businesses over the years. Usually I just take my money elsewhere and don't make a fuss. But your situation shows why staying quiet doesn't solve the problem." Frank, a Vietnam veteran with graying hair and intense eyes, spoke with quiet authority. "Son, discrimination comes in many forms. I fought for this country's freedom, came home to protests and name-calling, and now I deal with people who think my motorcycle and leather vest make me dangerous. It's time someone took a stand." The growing support both amazed and overwhelmed Marcus. He'd simply wanted to trade in his laptop, but somehow he'd become a symbol for thousands of people who'd experienced similar prejudice. "I appreciate all of this," Marcus said carefully, "but I don't want to be the face of some big movement. I just want to get my motorcycle and move on with my life." Jake placed a supportive hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Sometimes life pushes us into situations we didn't choose, kid. The question is whether we step up or step back." Meanwhile, at Peterson's Electronics flagship store, Gerald Hoffman was beginning to understand the magnitude of what he'd unleashed. Store traffic had noticeably decreased over the weekend, and several regular customers had made pointed comments about the news coverage. Hoffman's assistant manager, Kevin Walsh, approached him during the Monday morning staff meeting. "Gerald, I think we need to address what happened last week. Some of the employees are asking questions, and the corporate called twice yesterday." "It'll blow over," Hoffman replied dismissively, though his confidence seemed forced. These motorcycle people make a lot of noise, but they don't have any real power. Corporate will back me up once they see the full picture. Hoffman's assessment proved spectacularly wrong. By Tuesday morning, Peterson's Electronics was facing the largest organized boycott in the company's history. The movement had grown beyond motorcycle clubs to include civil rights organizations, veterans groups, and general customers who opposed discrimination. Dr. James Crawford, a sociology professor at UC Davis, had assigned his students to research the boycott as a case study in grassroots organizing. "What we're seeing here is fascinating," he explained to his class. "A single incident of perceived discrimination has mobilized diverse communities around a shared principle of fair treatment." The academic attention brought additional credibility to the boycott, with Crawford's preliminary research showing that motorcycle enthusiasts represented a significant but previously unmeasured consumer demographic for electronics retailers. Local television stations expanded their coverage beyond simple news reporting. Channel 3's investigative team began examining Peterson's Electronics employment practices and customer service policies across all locations. They discovered that Hoffman had been involved in 3 previous discrimination complaints over the past 5 years, all of which had been quietly settled without policy changes. Reporter Jennifer Walsh interviewed employment law attorney David Park about the broader implications. Companies often treat discrimination complaints as public relations problems to be managed rather than systemic issues to be fixed. This boycott demonstrates what happens when affected communities organize an effective response. The legal perspective added another layer of complexity to Peterson's crisis. Corporate executives realized they weren't just dealing with bad publicity. They potentially faced federal civil rights investigations and costly lawsuits if patterns of discrimination could be documented. By Wednesday, the boycott had attracted support from unexpected quarters. Local business owners who didn't ride motorcycles began expressing solidarity. Maria Rodriguez, who owned 3 Mexican restaurants in Sacramento, posted on social media, "If they discriminate against bikers today, who will they target tomorrow?" Small business owners understand that respect for all customers is essential. Her restaurants began displaying bikers' welcome signs, and other establishments followed suit. The boycott was transforming into something larger, a community conversation about inclusion and respect. Peterson's stock price continued declining as financial analysts expressed concern about the company's crisis management and potential long-term reputation damage. Investment firm Morrison & Associates downgraded Peterson's Electronics stock from buy to hold, citing unresolved discrimination issues and ineffective corporate response. The financial pressure finally prompted direct action from CEO William Thornton. He called an emergency meeting with his executive team, regional managers, and legal department. "Gentlemen, ladies," Thornton began, "we're facing a crisis that threatens our company's reputation and financial stability. The Sacramento situation has spiraled beyond our control, and our standard damage control procedures aren't working." Regional manager Sandra Phillips had been tracking the boycott's impact across all Northern California locations. "Sir, we're seeing revenue decreases of 15 to 20% at most stores, with the Sacramento flagship down 35%. Customer service complaints have increased by 400%, and we're getting cancellation requests for corporate accounts." Legal counsel Robert Martinez delivered even worse news. "We've received formal discrimination complaints from the NAACP, the ACLU, and the Anti-Defamation League. They're demanding federal investigations into our hiring and customer service practices across all locations." The room fell silent as the executives absorbed the implications. A simple customer service incident had evolved into a federal civil rights issue with the potential to destroy the company's reputation and trigger costly legal battles. Thornton realized that Peterson's Electronics had reached a crossroads. They could continue defending Hoffman's actions and fighting the boycott, risking further escalation and potential legal liability. Or they could acknowledge the problem, make meaningful changes, and attempt to rebuild their damaged relationship with affected communities. What are our options? Thornton asked his team. Phillips suggested immediate termination of Hoffman and implementation of comprehensive diversity training for all employees. Martinez recommended proactive engagement with civil rights organizations to demonstrate good faith efforts at reform. The question is whether we're too late, Martinez added grimly. This movement has gained momentum beyond anything we've seen before. Simply firing one manager might not be enough to restore consumer confidence. As Peterson's executives debated their response strategy, the motorcycle community was planning their most visible demonstration yet. Danny Rodriguez announced that over 200 riders from across California would converge on Sacramento the following Saturday for a peaceful protest outside the flagship Peterson's electronics store. The event, dubbed Ride for Respect, would showcase the diversity and respectability of the motorcycle community while demanding concrete changes in Peterson's policies and practices. Saturday morning dawned crisp and clear in Sacramento. Perfect weather for what would become the largest motorcycle demonstration in the city's history. By 9 a.m., the parking lot at Cal Expo was filled with an impressive array of motorcycles: Harleys, Hondas, Yamahas, BMWs, Ducatis, and dozens of other makes and models representing every corner of California's riding community. Marcus stood near the registration tent, still amazed by the scale of what his simple attempt to trade in a laptop had triggered. Riders continued arriving in groups, their engines creating a symphony of rumbling exhausts that echoed across the fairgrounds. "Never seen anything like this," commented Officer Linda Harrison of the Sacramento Police Department, who was coordinating security for the event. As a motorcycle officer herself, she understood the community better than most law enforcement personnel. "These folks are more organized than most political rallies I've worked at." Danny Rodriguez had spent weeks planning every detail of the Ride for Respect demonstration. Permit applications, media coordination, safety briefings, legal observers. Nothing was left to chance. The Iron Brotherhood president knew that any incident or negative publicity could undermine everything they'd worked to achieve. "Brothers and sisters," Danny announced over the sound system, "today we ride not just for Marcus Chen, but for every person who's been judged by their appearance instead of their character. We ride for respect, dignity, and the right to be treated as equals in our own community." The crowd of nearly 300 riders responded with engine revs and applause. Among them were teachers, nurses, veterans, business owners, students, and retirees, a cross-section of American society unified by their love of motorcycles and their shared experience of discrimination. Television news crews positioned themselves strategically around the demonstration route. Channel 8's Amanda Foster, who'd been covering the story from the beginning, interviewed participants as they prepared for the ride. "I'm Dr. Patricia Williams," said a woman in her 50s, adjusting her helmet. "I'm a pediatrician at UC Davis Children's Hospital, and I ride because it helps me deal with the stress of my job. The idea that someone would refuse me service because of my motorcycle gear is absurd." Another rider, Robert Chen, no relation to Marcus, introduced himself as a retired Marine Corps sergeant. "I served 3 tours in Afghanistan defending this country's freedoms. I'll be damned if I'm going to let some store manager treat me like a criminal for riding a Harley." The personal stories continued, each one reinforcing the message that motorcyclists were ordinary citizens who deserved ordinary respect. Meanwhile, at Peterson's electronics flagship store, Gerald Hoffman watched the growing crowd through his office window with increasing anxiety. Corporate had assured him that his job was secure, but the scale of the demonstration suggested this wasn't going away quietly. Store security guard Thomas Wright, a former police officer, shook his head as he observed the organized nature of the protest. "Gerald, I've worked security for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like this. These aren't troublemakers. They're citizens exercising their constitutional rights. Hoffman remained defiant. They're trying to intimidate us. If we give in to their demands, every special interest group will think they can pressure us whenever they don't like something. Wright had dealt with actual troublemakers during his career, and nothing about the motorcycle demonstration suggested criminal intent or violent behavior. These people have jobs, families, responsibilities. They're not here to cause trouble. They're here to make a point. At 10:30 a.m., the motorcycle procession began moving through downtown Sacramento. Police motorcycles led the way, followed by American flags and the diverse array of riders. The demonstration moved slowly and respectfully through the city streets, drawing attention from pedestrians and motorists. Local business owners came out to watch the procession pass. Many displayed handmade signs supporting the motorcyclists' cause. "Respect all customers," read one sign outside Martinez Electronics, a small shop that competed with Peterson's. "Discrimination has no place here," declared another outside Thompson's Computer Repair. The show of community support surprised even the demonstration organizers. Sacramento's business community was sending a clear message that discrimination was bad for everyone, not just the targeted group. When the procession reached Peterson's Electronics, the riders formed an organized semicircle in the parking lot. The demonstration was peaceful, orderly, and incredibly powerful. 300 motorcycles and their riders represented thousands of family members, friends, and supporters throughout Northern California. Danny Rodriguez took the microphone and addressed both the crowd and the news cameras. "We're here today because Marcus Chen was denied basic customer service based on prejudice and stereotypes. But this is about more than one incident. It's about changing attitudes and ensuring equal treatment for all Americans." Inside the store, business had ground to a virtual halt. Customers who'd planned to shop at Peterson's found themselves drawn to the demonstration instead. Many engaged in conversations with the riders, learning about their professions, their families, and their experiences with discrimination. Margaret Foster, a retired teacher who'd come to buy a computer, found herself talking with Lisa Chang, the aerospace engineer from Brotherhood. "I had no idea engineers rode motorcycles," Margaret admitted. Lisa smiled. "I designed satellite guidance systems for NASA contractors. My Harley is how I unwind after dealing with rocket science all day. The two parts of my life aren't contradictory, they're complementary." Similar conversations happened throughout the crowd. The demonstration was breaking down stereotypes in real time, and personal interaction at a time. Peterson's corporate executives watched the live news coverage from their San Francisco headquarters with growing alarm. CEO William Thornton realized that his company's reputation was being damaged beyond repair with every passing hour. "This has to end," Thornton told his crisis management team. "We're losing customers, facing legal challenges, and becoming a national symbol of corporate discrimination. Gerald Hoffman isn't worth destroying our entire company." Legal counsel Robert Martinez had been monitoring social media throughout the morning. "Sir, this story is trending nationally on Twitter. We're getting negative commentary from civil rights organizations, veteran groups, and customer advocacy organizations across the country. The longer this continues, the more permanent the damage becomes." Regional manager Sandra Phillips delivered the final blow. "Our weekend sales figures are catastrophic. The Sacramento store is down 60%, and other locations are reporting significant decreases. Our online sales are being affected by negative reviews and boycott messages." Thornton made the decision that should have been made 2 weeks earlier. "Terminate Gerald Hoffman immediately. Issue a public apology acknowledging our failures. Implement comprehensive anti-discrimination training for all employees. And send someone to Sacramento to personally apologize to Marcus Chen." The corporate response came too late to prevent the demonstration, but not too late to begin rebuilding the company's damaged reputation. As the afternoon progressed, The Ride for Respect demonstration evolved into something resembling a community festival. Local food trucks arrived to serve the crowd. Children asked riders about their motorcycles. Veterans shared stories with other veterans. Teachers discussed education with parents who rode. Marcus found himself at the center of attention, still somewhat overwhelmed by the massive response to his experience. Media interviews, thank you messages from supporters, and congratulations from people he'd never met created a surreal atmosphere. "I just wanted to buy a motorcycle," Marcus confided to his mother, who'd taken the day off work to attend the demonstration. "I never expected anything like this." Carmen Chen watched the crowd with pride and amazement. "Your father would be so proud of you," she told her son. "Sometimes it takes one person standing up to create change for everyone." The demonstration concluded at 4 p.m. with no incidents, arrests, or problems. The motorcycle community had proven that organized, peaceful advocacy could create powerful social change. They'd also demonstrated that stereotypes about bikers were not only wrong, but harmful to the broader principles of equality and respect that defined American society. As riders began departing Sacramento, many stopped to thank Marcus personally for his courage in standing up to discrimination. What had started as one teenager's humiliating experience had become a catalyst for community-wide conversations about prejudice, respect, and the power of organized citizen action. Monday morning brought news that would reshape Peterson's Electronics forever. Gerald Hoffman arrived at work to find 2 corporate security officers waiting in his office. Along with Human Resources Director Janet Murphy and Regional Manager Sandra Phillips. "Gerald," Murphy began without preamble, "your employment with Peterson's Electronics is terminated effective immediately. Please gather your personal belongings and surrender your store keys and access cards." Hoffman's face went pale. "You can't be serious. I've been with this company for 15 years. I was protecting the store from potential troublemakers." Phillips had reviewed Hoffman's employment file over the weekend, discovering a pattern of complaints that corporate had previously ignored. "Gerald, you've had 17 customer service complaints in the past 3 years, including 4 allegations of discriminatory behavior." The Marcus Chen incident was the final straw. Security escorted Hoffman from the building within 30 minutes, ending his career at Peterson's Electronics and sending a clear message to remaining employees about the company's new priorities. Meanwhile, CEO William Thornton was preparing for damage control on an unprecedented scale. Peterson's stock had dropped another 5% in pre-market trading, and major institutional investors were demanding explanations. The company's reputation hung in the balance. At 10 a.m., Thornton held a press conference at Peterson's Electronics headquarters in San Francisco. The room was packed with reporters from technology trade publications, local news stations, and national media outlets who'd picked up the story. "Ladies and gentlemen," Thornton began, his voice carrying the weight of corporate crisis, "Peterson's Electronics has failed to live up to our own standards of customer service and human dignity. The treatment Marcus Chen received at our Sacramento store was unacceptable, discriminatory, and contrary to everything our company claims to represent." The CEO's statement was unprecedented in its directness. Most corporate apologies were carefully crafted to avoid admitting liability. But Thornton had decided that only complete honesty could save his company's reputation. Effective immediately, "We are implementing comprehensive changes to our customer service policies, employee training programs, and management oversight procedures. We are also establishing a $2 million fund for diversity and inclusion initiatives in communities where we operate." Thornton announced that Peterson's Electronics would partner with civil rights organizations, veteran groups, and motorcycle advocacy organizations to develop anti-discrimination training programs for all employees. The company would also create an independent ombudsman position to investigate discrimination complaints. The financial commitment got investors' attention, but the motorcycle community remained skeptical. Danny Rodriguez told reporters, "Actions speak louder than words. We'll judge Peterson's by what they actually do, not what they promise to do." Later that afternoon, Corporate Vice President Michael Stevens arrived in Sacramento with a specific mission: personally apologize to Marcus Chen and demonstrate Peterson's commitment to change. Stevens had volunteered for the assignment, despite knowing it would be professionally risky if the meeting went poorly. Marcus met Stevens at Patterson Auto Repair, surrounded by Jake Patterson and several members of the Iron Brotherhood, who wanted to ensure the teenager wasn't pressured or manipulated by corporate representatives. "Marcus," Stevens began, "I'm here to personally apologize for the discrimination you experienced at our store. What happened to you was wrong, and Peterson's Electronics takes full responsibility for Gerald Hoffman's actions." Stevens presented Marcus with a formal letter of apology, a full refund for any inconvenience, and an offer to complete his original laptop trade at a value higher than Peterson's normal rates. More importantly, he invited Marcus to participate in developing the company's new anti-discrimination policies. "I appreciate the apology," Marcus replied carefully. "But this was never about money or getting something for free. It was about being treated with basic respect." Stevens nodded, understanding that rebuilding trust would require more than financial gestures. "You're absolutely right. That's why we're asking for your help in making sure this never happens to anyone else." The corporate response impressed some observers, but others remained convinced that Peterson's was only acting to protect their profits. Social media debates raged between those who believed the company deserved a second chance and those who felt the damage was irreparable. Dr. James Crawford, the UC Davis sociology professor who'd been studying the boycott, offered his analysis to local media. Peterson's response appears genuine, but corporate promises are easy to make and difficult to verify. The real test will be whether they follow through on their commitments over the coming months and years. By Wednesday, the immediate crisis atmosphere began shifting toward cautious optimism. Several motorcycle advocacy groups announced they would suspend their boycott activities pending evaluation of Peterson's actual policy changes. However, they made clear that any backsliding would result in renewed and intensified opposition. The Iron Brotherhood organized a meeting to discuss their response to Peterson's overtures. Danny Rodriguez favored giving the company a chance to prove their sincerity, while other members remained skeptical. They fired one manager and wrote some checks, argued Lisa Chang. "That doesn't necessarily mean they've learned anything meaningful." Teresa Hawkins from the Desert Riders offered a different perspective. "If we don't give them an opportunity to change, how can we know whether change is possible? Our goal was never to destroy the company. It was to eliminate discrimination." The debate reflected broader discussions happening throughout the motorcycle community. Some writers felt that Peterson deserved forgiveness if they demonstrated genuine reform, while others believed that discrimination should carry permanent consequences. Marcus found himself in an unexpected position as various groups sought his opinion on Peterson's response. He'd never asked to become a spokesperson for civil rights, but his experience had made him a symbol of the fight against prejudice. "I think we should judge them by their actions going forward," Marcus told a gathering at Patterson Auto Repair. "If they really change their policies and train their employees properly, then maybe something good came out of what happened to me." 3 weeks after Peterson's crisis began, Marcus finally achieved his original goal. Miguel Rodriguez at Rodriguez Motors had followed the entire story and offered to reduce the motorcycle's price by the amount Marcus had been unable to raise through his laptop trade. "You've become famous, young man," Miguel said as Marcus signed the paperwork for his 2019 Harley-Davidson Street 750. "This bike is going to a rider who's already made a difference in his community." Marcus's first ride was a solo journey through Sacramento's downtown area, past the Peterson's electronics store where his ordeal had begun. The experience felt surreal. Weeks earlier, he'd been an anonymous teenager trying to trade in a laptop. And now he was known throughout California's motorcycle community as the young man who'd sparked a civil rights movement. The Peterson store displayed new signage emphasizing their commitment to serving all customers with respect and dignity. Inside, the remaining employees had completed intensive diversity training, and the company had hired Maria Rodriguez as assistant manager, specifically citing her experience working with diverse communities. Peterson's electronics stock gradually recovered as investors recognized that the company's proactive response had minimized long-term damage. More importantly, the incident had prompted similar policy reviews at other retail chains throughout California, creating industry-wide improvements in customer service standards. 6 months later, Marcus had settled into his new identity as both a motorcycle enthusiast and an inadvertent civil rights advocate. He spoke at several conferences about discrimination and youth empowerment, always emphasizing that ordinary people could create extraordinary change when they stood up for their principles. The Brotherhood offered Marcus membership when he turned 18, recognizing his contributions to the motorcycle community. Danny Rodriguez presented him with a custom leather vest, bearing patches commemorating the Ride for Respect demonstration and Peterson's electronics. Boycott, sometimes the most important. Battles choose us instead of the other way around. Danny told Marcus during the membership ceremony, "You handled yourself with dignity and courage when it mattered most." Marcus's story became a case study in business schools, sociology programs, and civil rights organizations throughout the country. It demonstrated how individual acts of discrimination could trigger massive social movements, and how corporations that responded quickly and genuinely to criticism could recover from reputation crises. Most importantly, it proved that stereotypes and prejudice could be overcome through organized citizen action, respectful dialogue, and the courage of ordinary people willing to demand extraordinary change. 2 years had passed since Marcus Chen's encounter with Gerald Hoffman changed everything. Now 19 and a sophomore at Sacramento State University studying business administration, Marcus had learned to balance his accidental fame with his desire for a normal college life. The Harley-Davidson Street 750 that had started it all sat parked outside his apartment complex. No longer just a dream, but a trusted companion that had carried him through countless adventures across Northern California. The motorcycle represented more than transportation. It symbolized perseverance, dignity, and the pressure of standing up for what's right. Peterson's electronics had undergone a complete transformation under new leadership. CEO William Thornton had stepped down 6 months after the crisis, replaced by former diversity consultant Dr. Angela Washington, who became the first African-American woman to lead a major electronics retail chain in California. Dr. Washington's first major initiative was establishing the Marcus Chen Customer Rights Initiative, a comprehensive program that trained employees to recognize and eliminate unconscious bias in customer service. The program had been adopted by dozens of other retail chains across the United States, creating industry-wide improvements in how businesses treated diverse customers. What started as our worst crisis became our greatest opportunity for growth. Dr. Washington explained during a keynote speech at the National Retail Federation's annual conference. Marcus Chen taught us that true customer service means seeing people as individuals, not stereotypes. The success of Peterson's transformation had surprised even their harshest critics. Sales had recovered to pre-crisis levels within 18 months, and employee satisfaction surveys showed dramatic improvements in workplace culture. The company had become a model for corporate accountability and authentic change. Gerald Hoffman's post-Peterson's life had taken a dramatically different path. Unable to find management positions in retail due to his reputation, he'd eventually taken a job as a night security guard at a warehouse in Stockton. The fall from store manager to security guard had been humbling, forcing him to confront the consequences of his prejudiced actions. During quiet night shifts, Hoffman had time to reflect on the incident that destroyed his career. He'd never considered himself a racist or bigot, but the massive response to his treatment of Marcus had forced him to examine his unconscious biases and assumptions about people who looked different from his expectations. After 18 months of soul-searching, Hoffman had done something unprecedented. He'd written a letter to Marcus Chen, apologizing personally and asking for forgiveness. "I know I can't undo what I did," Hoffman wrote, "but I want you to know that losing my job was the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to look at myself honestly and realize how my prejudices were hurting innocent people. You were just a kid trying to buy a motorcycle, and I treated you like a criminal because of a jacket." "I'm sorry." Marcus had shown the letter to his mother and Jake Patterson, unsure how to respond. The apology seemed genuine, but the damage Hoffman had caused extended far beyond their personal interaction. "Forgiveness is a personal choice," Carmen Chen told her son. "You don't owe him anything, but holding on to anger only hurts you." After careful consideration, Marcus had written back, accepting Hoffman's apology while emphasizing that true redemption required ongoing commitment to treating all people with dignity and respect. The exchange had remained private until Hoffman himself made it public during an interview with Sacramento magazine. "That young man showed more maturity and grace than I did," Hoffman admitted. "He could have ignored my letter or responded with anger, but instead he gave me a chance to learn and grow." The Iron Brotherhood Motorcycle Club had evolved significantly since Peterson's incident. Danny Rodriguez had used the organization's newfound prominence to expand their charitable activities, organizing toy drives for underprivileged children, veteran support programs, and scholarship funds for students pursuing careers in skilled trades. Marcus had become an honorary member despite his young age, participating in charity rides and speaking at events about overcoming adversity. His college schedule limited his involvement, but he treasured his connection to the motorcycle community that had supported him during his darkest moment. "That kid changed all of us," Danny reflected during the club's second annual Ride for Respect commemoration event. "He showed us that our community had more power than we realized when we worked together for something important." The Iron Brotherhood now included over 200 members throughout Northern California, with chapters in cities where discrimination incidents had occurred in the past. They'd become advocates for civil rights beyond just motorcycle-related issues, supporting various minority communities facing prejudice and stereotyping. Dr. James Crawford had completed his academic study of the Petersons' boycott, publishing a book titled Grassroots Power: How One Teenager Changed Corporate America. The book had become required reading in business ethics and sociology courses at universities nationwide. Marcus Chen's experience demonstrates that ordinary citizens retain extraordinary power in our democratic society, Crawford wrote in his conclusion. When individuals refuse to accept discrimination and communities organize effective responses, even large corporations must listen and change. The academic recognition had brought Marcus speaking opportunities at colleges and conferences throughout the country. He'd addressed audiences at Stanford, UC Berkeley, and UCLA about the importance of standing up to prejudice, even when the personal cost seemed overwhelming. During a recent speech at his own university, Marcus reflected on how the incident had shaped his worldview. "I learned that silence in the face of injustice only encourages more injustice. Sometimes doing the right thing means accepting consequences you never wanted. But the alternative, allowing discrimination to continue unchallenged, is worse." The Petersons' electronics transformation had inspired similar changes throughout the retail industry. Companies began proactively reviewing their customer service policies, implementing bias training programs, and establishing systems for addressing discrimination complaints more effectively the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. NAACP recognized Peterson's Electronics with their Corporate Responsibility Award, acknowledging the company's genuine commitment to change following the crisis. Peterson could have fought the accusations, denied responsibility, and attempted to weather the storm, said NAACP President Derek Johnson during the award ceremony. Instead, they chose accountability, meaningful reform, and ongoing partnership with affected communities. Marcus attended the ceremony as Peterson's guest, a surreal experience that highlighted how far everyone had traveled from that September afternoon when he'd simply wanted to trade in his laptop. As he prepared to enter his junior year of college, Marcus had decided to pursue a career in business consulting, specifically helping companies develop inclusive customer service practices. His unique experience as both victim and catalyst of corporate change had given him insights that traditional consultants couldn't match. "I want to help other companies avoid what Peterson's went through," Marcus explained to his academic advisor. "But more importantly, I want to help other people avoid what I went through." The scholarship offers had poured in from various organizations, civil rights groups, motorcycle associations, business foundations, and even Peterson's Electronics itself. Marcus had accepted a merit scholarship from the Brotherhood, which allowed him to focus on his studies while continuing his advocacy work. On weekends, Marcus could often be found riding his Harley through the Sacramento Valley, sometimes alone and sometimes with other members of the Brotherhood. The motorcycle that had once represented a distant dream now carried him toward a future filled with purpose and possibility. The Peterson's Electronics store where his ordeal began had become an unlikely pilgrimage site for civil rights advocates and business students studying corporate transformation. The building now housed a small museum display documenting the incident and its aftermath, serving as a reminder that positive change often emerges from painful experiences. Marcus Chen's story had become more than just a tale of discrimination overcome. It had evolved into a blueprint for how ordinary individuals could create extraordinary social change through courage, persistence, and community support. His experience proved that in America, one person's refusal to accept injustice could still move mountains, change corporations, and inspire entire communities to demand better from themselves and their institutions. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.